Alright, so should you or shouldn't you use the fixative for pastels? Okay, so this is something that I was really struggling with, whether I should use the fixative or not. And after loads of experimenting with both soft pastels and pastel pencils and with fixative and without, I decided to film this video just so I can show you like what you can get with the fixative and what you can get without the fixative. So let's get straight into it. Okay, so we have this part, like the upper part is with like these are soft pastels and these down part is with pastel pencils. So here you can see this clear line here. So this part is with the fixative and this part is without the fixative. You can see the difference in the colors here. So let's start with this first and then we're going to continue working on and explaining this part. So this one, as you can see that like especially here with these earthy tones, like you can see like the difference between these shades here. On these darker parts, you cannot actually see it. Like, yes, this black seems darker, but imagine expecting to get something like this and then you use the fixative and you get something like this. Also, what I noticed here when it comes to like using the fixative, after you use the fixative on soft pastels, it's like the colors, like the pigment kind of crumbles and then you can see the paper underneath it, which for me is not useful at all. Like it's something that I should definitely, like it's not something that I look for when I work on the drawing and then I fix it and then I can see the paper that is underneath. So that's not something that I want. But then again, also depends what you're after and what kind of style you're looking for. For me, this is simply not gonna work like when it comes to the fixative. When it comes to pastel pencils, here again, like there's a difference between the soft pastels and pastel pencils. I'm gonna be working on that video very, very soon, so you're gonna get to see it. I have like a small fly here that is just likes to mess up with my video. So you can see the difference here again. Like these colors are, like soft pastels are much more vibrant than these ones. But then again, the pastel pencils are absolutely amazing when it comes to all the details and everything else. So this is absolutely something that you should be using if you want to get like that cool details and stuff with pastels. So that's really great. The other thing that I wanted to show you is, for example, I used 2 layers of fixative here, both on the soft pastels and pastel pencils. So, and it's like they're advising to use between 4 and 5. And that's like really a lot of fixative on one part. Like that's really... But then after I used it and I waited to get dry, like I can still take off the pigment even after I use the fixative. So basically the point of fixative is like once you use it, the color is not gonna be able to, like for it to be taken off. But here, like it changes the color and then again it can be taken off. So that's really confusing to me, to be honest, because it changes the color and you still can smudge your pastel work. So to be honest, working with soft pastels and then using the fixative, like your color will change and then you can still be able to smudge it. So I don't see the point in that. But when it comes to pastel pencils, like you can barely see this. So the colors are actually, like the fixative is actually working here quite good, much better than I expected. As you can see even here, like this color is barely, like you can barely see the pigment there. Also on the blue one, like you can barely see the pigment, whereas here, if I used it, like you can like clearly see the pigment that is here. So this is something that I should be definitely avoiding when it comes to using fixative on soft pastels. Like you get like the colors are changing and I would like to preserve the color that I actually layered, like this pureness of this color, this part here. Like I wasn't looking for this part. If I did, I would combine the colors to get a tone like this. So I would rather preserve this than this. So for me, I think that no fixative is more than fine. So let's switch to this part now here. So we have again soft pastels and pastel pencils. This is no fixative, this is with the fixative, like both sides. You can see the difference that these whites are turning out, like you can see like that there's quite of a contrast there than here. But then again, it's because this one is much darker than this. And the colors, like if you want to use on like certain details and stuff, like this is absolutely great. Then you use the fixative and then you use the whites or the lights over it. But then again, I would rather stay on this side than on this one. Like you can also see here how this part is much more, like it has a bigger contrast, even this part, than this one. But then again, I like to combine my colors and I like to be able to work on them more and to explore with them and to, you know, get the best out of it. So I wouldn't block myself like going straight away with the fixative and then me not being able to build the color even more. So once we're done with that part, I would like to show you this. So I did like a bit of an experiment with these as well. This is on the colored paper. Again, these are the upper part is with soft pastels, the down is with pastel pencils. This is with the fixative, this is without. So what I see here, and I truly hope that you can see it as well on the camera, that I see the texture, like I see the tooth of the paper once I layered the fixative on top of this. I have a cat's hair here. And you can see that the colors are quite different than this. So this is more like, this is darker than this. These colors are more vibrant than these ones. And I use the same technique here. And as I said, I think that fixative doesn't like the whites that much. As soon as I layered the fixative here, I saw that this light kind of separated from the rest of the colors, whereas here, you don't actually see that. These colors are much darker than these ones. But then again, I can see the texture here. And I can see how basically the fixative kind of swallowed certain pigments and made them disappear or something. So I don't actually prefer this because I can see the paper underneath that. And here I don't actually. So, and I prefer getting what I actually see, because if I wanted to get this more vibrant tone, I would work on this part here by myself, just using and combining the colors in order to get the best possible result. So that's something that is, like, as you can see, and I truly hope that you can see it on the camera as well, that is quite different. Again, we can do the test. Here is with the soft pastels, with the fixative, and again, you can see that I am able to take the color off, even though I used the fixative over that. But then again, the color changed. Whereas here, with pastel pencils, like much less. Like here, this dark one, like you can barely take this off. So it's, again, it's much better to use it with pastel pencils. If you want to use the fixative, if you decide that you want to use the fixative, definitely then work a bit more with pastel pencils, not with soft pastels. Or work with soft pastels and then combine them with pastel pencils. But then again, if you saw my previous video, you will see that I kind of ruined my lion and a lioness portraits that I did, because I used the fixative over that, and it basically, the fixative kind of swallowed all the contrast and all the whites. Even though I used the pastel pencils and the soft pastels in a combination, like it still happened. But yeah, this is also something to have in mind, that fixative doesn't quite like the lighter tones, that's for sure. And then we have the last one, that is this one. So I want to show you, this is the darkest paper from Pastel Matte that they are producing, and I want to show you how the whites are working out here. So you can see the difference. This is with the fixative, this is without. You can see the difference here, like this white is, no matter how dark the paper is, like this white is white. Here, after I use the fixative and I use the same amount of pressure both here and here, you can see the see-through of the paper. Like you can see the texture, you can see the color of the paper just popping out. So that's something that I was just telling you about, that the fixative don't actually like the lights. So This one is, this is very important to have in mind as well. If you're working with loads of lights, like this is definitely something that you should have in mind. Then we have the soft pastels with the pencils. And you can see the difference, like I again use the same amount of pressure on both sides. This one is again darker than this one, like it's like a sienna color. And you can see the difference there. And then again, you can see the difference, like I use these lines after I use the fixative over that. Whereas here I just use the pencils over that. And it's pretty much the same results. It's again, because let me use the cotton bud. Once I do this, you can still see that soft pastels can be taken off from the paper. And that's something that is really confusing to me because, again, the whole point of using the fixative is to actually fix it onto the paper. So that's about that when it comes to these ones, just to have in mind that you are not going to have any kind of like a big difference, but what you will have the difference is that the colors are going to turn out quite darker than the one that you layered. And this is our last one. So this one, again, I have my cat's hair here. This one I used the fixative over this, and this one is without. So immediately what I saw is that this color is quite different here. Like this is lighter and this is more vibrant than this one. These colors here are quite different as well. I use 4 colors on each and every paper. But then again, these ones, this part seems much darker than this one. And here, again, I am seeing the texture of the paper and I'm seeing the color of the paper, especially underneath this light. And here as well, I saw that the color started to crumble a bit here. Where here, you cannot actually see that, like the color stays as it is, like you don't see the color of the paper, you don't see the texture. And this is all without the fixative. And let us do, because this is again with soft pastels, let us do the test. You can still see that you're able to take the colors, not as much, but then again, you can see that you can still take off the color, which is not something that I believe that we're after here, especially with the product that shouldn't do that. But that's something to keep in mind. This is something that, especially if you're just starting out working with pastels, I think that it's really important to have something like this in mind. It's because you're spending days, maybe weeks on one drawing, and then once you layer the fixative over that, it kind of turns out quite different. And then you are disappointed, like I was with the lions. I mean, the lions are still looking quite good, but the colors are just like much more darker than what it's used to be. So it's definitely something to have in mind if you are thinking about whether you should fix your drawing or not. I truly hope that this comparison is going to help you out to decide if you're going to use the fixative or not. It again depends on your style, it depends on your personal preference. Also, what I would highly suggest is that you do all this by yourself to explore and experiment, just so you can see what you will be able to get and what do you prefer more. And yeah, this would be all, guys, for today's video. Thank you so much for watching this, and I see you in another one. Thank you, guys. Bye.